Hi everyone, welcome back to my little art channel. I've been a bit quiet here, but that also means that I had a lot of time to paint and draw, and I fell in love with some new oil pastels last month. I got this set of Hwawon oil pastels as a birthday gift for myself, and while I wasn't sure how they'd compare to the oil pastels I already use, they were a positive surprise. I hope that with my color swatches, blending tests, a comparison to other oil pastel brands, and even some small painting snippets at the end of the video, you can get a sense for how these pastels feel, if they're a good fit for you, and what kind of art they are good for. One thing that immediately impressed me was the packaging. The box is beautiful. Very well made, and everything is just well thought out. The box lid has a thick layer of protective foam directly glued to it. Such a simple idea, but very convenient compared to the usually more flimsy protective sheets. As you can see, the colors are grouped in sets of 4. While painting with these, I found that this arrangement works very well. The individual pastels are easy to remove and replace, while still feeling very well protected. Each pastel comes with a craft paper wrap, which has very easy to read labeling. I've actually found that some of my other oil pastels can be hard to identify, especially once things get messy and smudged. But both the Korean and English names here are very clear. The numbering system also makes sorting these easy if they ever get out of order, as they start at 101 and proceed to 196 without any skipping around. I'm not sure what Hwawon's future plans are, but I really like how cohesive their branding feels so far. I started by swatching, as I was really curious to see how the more muted shades would compare. I made a simple color swatch layout, and if you'd like to use it for your own swatch tests or notes, you can find a free PDF just linked in the description. To get a sense for these oil pastels texture, I wanted the swatch rectangles to be large enough to test both lines and blending. Hopefully all my close-ups here help you see how these apply, even if you can't feel it for yourself. To show the colors more clearly, I also swatched them on a toned brown paper. A lot of the lighter shades especially show up much better there. My first impression was, these feel very dry compared to other oil pastels I've tried out. That might sound like a negative, but I don't mean that they are waxy or feel unpleasant to draw with at all. If you've ever used very soft, high-quality colored pencil like a Carantage Luminance or a good pencil by Comte de Paris, these feel similar, just larger, and of course as you layer them or apply more pressure, you get the typical buttery feel of oil pastels. The texture each stroke creates is beautiful, and I've been using them like drawing and sketching tools a lot over the last month. Hwawon means flower garden, or is often also used to signify a flower shop, and fittingly, botanical illustrations are at the core of Hwawon's branding and their color selection. Hwawon is a Korean brand established in 2019, and oil pastels are their main focus. These are actually created by an artist whose Instagram handle is also Hwawon. The box I got was the 96 color set, their full color collection. They also sell a 48 and 24 color selection, so I'll talk a bit more about my reasons for this larger purchase later as I discover and swatch each color. My second impression was something that could be minor for you, but that I just fell in love with. The color names. They are very creative, ranging from flowers to food or beverages, but also with uniquely Korean influences. You can find mizukaru, a Korean grain-based drink that I love, jujube, which are Korean dates, and even shades named after Goryeo and Joseon era porcelain and pottery. The names are very evocative and inspiring, and I personally just really enjoy fun touches like this in my art supplies. I was surprised by the number of very light shades. Colors like cherry blossom scenery, taro, milk tea, cream cheese, glass, or cashew nut are all very pale representations of the other colors they are grouped with. I was worried they'd be kind of redundant and too similar, but these actually turned out amazing for color blending. Like I mentioned, they are grouped with other colors that are more saturated, and they are perfect for creating smooth, harmonious gradients with those. Whenever I'm painting with this Hwawon box, I actually find myself reaching for all these blending shades the most. These very light shades are also the reason I went with the 96 color set instead of the smaller boxes. Hwawon oil pastels come in 48 and 24 color boxes too, like I mentioned, but I felt that while those look beautiful as well, the more unique shades that I personally was interested in were mostly in the largest box. I wanted to take advantage of that, as I just love working in muted colors and like having a lot of subtle hues in my palette. I'm glad I decided to create swatches on craft paper, as all the light shades show much better over there. The colors being grouped in sets of 4 that, while following an overall color gradient throughout the box, just go well together as a quartet, makes this box a great source of inspiration. If you're unsure about what color combination to use for certain areas in your art or want to create a limited color palette for a piece, I found that it really helps to have these little groupings. You could pick a quartet of greens and a quartet of browns, maybe combine them with 1 or 2 pink shades for contrast, and would get a cohesive and beautiful color palette with just those. This might be great if you're new to painting in general, or even if you're looking for a gift idea for a beginner artist or someone who has never tried oil pastels before. Something about these shades makes it difficult to mess up your color combinations no matter what. Now, as for the actual shade selection, like I mentioned, the overall concept of Hwawon is inspired by flowers. So you can imagine what that means for the color selection. Many shades of pink and green, a wide variety of brown hues, but fewer blue tones. For comparison, in the 72 color set of Mungyo oil pastels, a quarter of the colors are shades of blue and violet. Here, out of 96 colors, only about 10 are in the blue-violet range, including a cool gray. So let's call it around 10%. Around 25 shades fall into the green part of the color wheel, and over 20 shades are variations of pink. Keep that in mind, because while the colors in this set are very beautiful, allow for subtle shading and blending, and for great botanical art, of course, if most of your art focuses on oceans and blue skies, this might not be the best fit for you. One reason I was so slow to post here on YouTube over the last month. I was part of an exhibit here on Jeju Island and also started teaching beginner art classes in person to small and larger groups, as I did before the pandemic, though back then mostly in watercolors. One of the classes I teach is about oil pastels, and while I'm far from an expert with them myself, I do believe they're a great tool if someone wants to just dip their toes into drawing or painting, into art in general, and pursue creative projects or hobbies. They make color mixing easy and intuitive compared to media like oil paints or acrylic paints. And you barely need any additional tools, just the pastels themselves and paper or panels to draw on. So I think they are very accessible. When I paint with acrylics, I'm constantly reaching for specific brushes. I need a palette to work on, maybe some gel mediums or glazing liquids. With oil pastels, I can just sit down with my box and a sheet of paper and I'm good to go. Them being chunky and a bit messy adds to their charm and can help artists, no matter their skill level, get over perfectionism. Something I've observed both in my students and very much myself. While I mostly use Mungyo and Paul Rubens oil pastels for classes, in smaller groups I love to bring out this set if we want to explore sketching, so colorful line drawings instead of fully shaded paintings, or unique color combinations. What these oil pastels aren't great for is covering large surfaces. There, Paul Rubens and Sennelier with their creamier consistency just work much better. Mungyo is in the middle, a nice balance between the two, so if you just want to try out oil pastels as a medium, I still recommend the Mungyo Gallery Soft Oil Pastels as a starter set, as the color selection is very well balanced, and they're also the cheapest. Some of my favorite shades that I constantly reach for are Glass, a very light blue-gray, perfect for blending clouds and sky. All the light browns of the Quartet from 133 to 136. So cashew nut, boiled peanut, walnut shell and cookie. Black sesame porridge sounds both delicious and makes for a wonderful mid-tone shade. Shade 160 is called something between melon and lemon. And I like this unique yellow-green so much that I themed an entire landscape painting around it later. Cement is also something I use a lot. It's a warmer grey tone that I found blends beautifully with all the orange, red and pink tones. And I tried to pick my favorite green, but they're also beautiful. From the muted green tea latte to the much brighter sprout. And if you love painting lush landscapes, you'll probably enjoy the green selection here too. As is often the case with oil pastels, some colors will get used up much more quickly than others. I have to mention here that Hwawon does ship single colors from both their Korean and international website, but in other online stores I've only seen the box sets. So keep that in mind if you're a quick painter and might have to restock soon. I also noticed a slight issue with some of the shades. The dark brown shade called Branch, the deep green and deep blue. These dark, intense colors apply a bit unevenly, as you can see here. I'm not sure what the issue there is, and honestly, when painting or drawing with them or blending them with other colors, I don't actually notice this unevenness. But for just a single color application in a smooth blend, it did stand out on the swatch paper. If you're specifically planning to paint dark forest scenes or night scenes or something along those lines, then that would be something to keep in mind. So to wrap it all up, these oil pastels are on the drier side, more suited to drawings than large-scale paintings. Their color selection focuses on browns, greens and rosy shades, as well as very light shades to blend with, while the blues are somewhat lacking. The packaging is beautiful. These were obviously created with much care and thought going into every detail. The color arrangement inside the box encourages creating color gradients and combining certain shades, which makes these easier to navigate when color mixing. They are great for landscapes and botanical art. I still have to test them out for portraits. They are certified non-toxic by KC and ASTM. There's also a bit of a jump from the 194 blue-gray to the much darker 195 charcoal. Shades 185 and 186, Mud Festival and Bronze Age Tool, are a good bridge in between those, but they have a greenish tint to them that, while very beautiful and making them some of my favorite colors in the entire box, doesn't make them a good replacement for a more neutral dark grey that should probably have been there. Apart from that, I really like the color selection, and while I've mostly used these for landscape paintings and botanical sketches so far, I'm actually very curious to try them for portrait drawings. The wide range of the soft pinks, earthy browns, ochre hues, and the dark charcoal and black for contrast look like they'd make for a good portrait palette. To show you the texture a bit more clearly, I used the rough watercolor paper for some final swatches. The paper's grain, combined with a very light touch when applying this single color layer here, gave me a better sense of how Hwawon, Mungyo Gallery, and Paul Rubens oil pastels are different. I personally like using blending sticks because I hate the feeling of oil pastels all over my fingers. So for layering these pastels, I press the pigments, wax and oil into the paper with one of these paper stamps. Could you tell just from the sound how different these are? I don't think one texture is better than another. It really depends on your art style and what you're looking for when reaching for oil pastels. Personally, the Hwawon and Mungyo are a more natural fit for me as they are easy to control and quite precise. The price point for single oil pastel sticks at least here in South Korea, so you might have to check and compare prices where you are. Places them at double of a Mungyo Gallery Oil Pastel, half of a Neo Pastel, and less than half of a Senilye. I recommend these to you if you, like me, enjoy drier finishes, less messy application, and just enjoy nice packaging, because honestly that was a big sell for these. I really love the box. Here I'm working on cradled gesso panels. These make for an incredibly smooth surface. And I was worried that the oil pastels would feel too slippery at first. The drier consistency of Hwawon worked well though, and this was also when I really came to appreciate all those near-white blending shades I'd mentioned earlier while swatching. As even weird color combinations could be blended out and toned down for a more harmonious look. I personally love muted pastel shades, so the longer I paint with these, the more I like them. I hope that this helped give you a first impression of these oil pastels, and let me know if you have any questions, or let me know what kind of portrait you would like to see painted with these. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again much sooner, without a long break, in my next art video.